Distance formula is defined as the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And in order to use this equation, you'll be given 2 points. So in this example, we'll say P1 is 2, negative 3, and P2 is negative 5, 7. First thing we want to do is find our x2, x1, y2, and y1. So for our first point, we know that x1 is 2 and y1 is negative 3. And for our second point, x2 is negative 5 and y2 is 7. So now that we have identified our points, we can plug them in directly into the equation. So d is equal to x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And then we can just calculate. So d equals the square root of negative 7 squared plus 10 squared. D equals the square root of 49 plus 100. D equals the square root of 149. D equals 12.21. And that there is our final answer. So for this next part of the video, I'm going to cover the derivation of where this equation comes from. So let's say that we have a coordinate system like this. And we'll say our first point is at x1, y1, and our second point is at x2, y2. And what we want to do is find the distance between the 2 points. Call it d. So if you look at this plot, you can see that, well, actually, we can form a triangle like this. And the distance of the bottom of the triangle would be x2 minus x1, so delta x. And then the distance of the right side of the triangle would be y2 minus y1, so change of y. And we know from Pythagorean's theorem that you can relate the three sides of a triangle by a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Then we can solve for c. We can rearrange our equation and write it as c squared equals a squared plus b squared. C equals the square root of a squared plus b squared. And then what we can do is look at our plot and try to identify what a, b, and c are. So a is x2 minus x1, b is y2 minus y1, and c is d. So now what we can do is plug these in to the equation. So c equals d, which is equal to the square root of a squared, so x2 minus x1 squared, plus b squared, y2 minus y1 squared. And that there is the definition of the distance formula. So now we know exactly where it comes from.